Kharkiv is being shelled by Russia every day this week. One of the latest missile strikes killed 2 children. Up to 12,000 North Korean soldiers are being trained in Russia. The contingent includes at least 500 officers and 3 generals. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion, nearly 650,000 Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded. Hi, I'm Zhenia Melnyk and this is United 24 Media. Russia launched a record number of attack drones on Ukraine in October. According to a statement from the General Staff of the Armed Forces, Russian forces used 2,023 Shahed-type suicide drones and other unidentified UAVs in the last month. Nearly 1,200 were eliminated by Ukrainian defenders, with over 700 being lost from radar. This marks an escalation in Russia's aerial assault tactics. Overall, since the beginning of 2024, Russia has launched almost 7,000 strike drones into Ukrainian airspace. The search and rescue operation after a Russian strike on a residential building in Kharkiv is complete. The death toll rose to 3 as rescuers retrieved the body of a 15-year-old boy from underneath the rubble, making him the second child who was killed in this attack. Another 36 people were injured. According to local governor Oleg Senegubov, Russian forces hit the city with at least 3 guided aerial bombs targeting a 9-story residential building in the Saltivka district around 11 p.m. on Wednesday.
This is not the first time this area was attacked. The terrorist country, the criminal country, is choosing the time of the attack when most people are at home and targets residential buildings. There are no military or even civilian industrial objects here.
In the early hours of October 31st, the regional governor reported that a 12-year-old boy had been pulled from the rubble with serious head wounds and fractures. Despite all the medics' efforts, they were unable to save him. Around 1 p.m., rescuers found the body of a man on the first floor of the damaged building. To follow the latest news from Ukraine, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Earlier this week, a historical administrative building was damaged in the center of Kharkiv as Russia attacked the city with guided aerial bombs. According to the regional governor, at least 9 people were injured. The strike damaged several floors of Dershprom building, an iconic landmark of Ukraine's second-largest city. At the time of its completion in 1928, Dershprom was the largest skyscraper in the USSR and the second in Europe, standing at 108 meters with its antenna.
It is known in many countries around the world. Many guests come here to visit the building. We made a museum dedicated to the construction and reconstruction of the building after the previous war. It can be found in a lot of architecture literature around the world.
The city mayor Igor Terekhov stated that since Sunday, Russian forces have been shelling Kharkiv every day with rockets and bombs, often several times a day. In October, the city was attacked 25 times, killing 9 and injuring 130 people. Most of the strikes targeted residential buildings. Air raid alerts sounded in Kharkiv for 339 hours, the equivalent of 2 non-stop weeks in a row. Sending DPRK troops to support Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is a clear violation of international law, stated the permanent representative of Ukraine to the UN, Serhiy Kyslytsa. During a UN Security Council session in New York on maintaining peace and security in Ukraine, he underlined that according to available information, the DPRK military personnel, consisting of up to 12,000 servicemen, are being prepared at 5 training grounds in the eastern military district of the Russian Armed Forces.
This contingent includes at least 500 officers of the DPRK army, with at least 3 generals from the General Staff. Subsequently, it is planned to form at least 5 units or formations from DPRK military personnel consisting of 2,000 to 3,000 servicemen each. One such unit is equivalent to that of a motorized rifle regiment.
Kyslytsa also added that between October 23 and October 28, at least 7 flights reportedly transported around 2,100 North Korean soldiers from Russia's eastern military district to Russia's border with Ukraine, with the total expected to reach 4,500 by early November. The US is closely tracking the unprecedented level of direct military cooperation between Russia and North Korea, stated the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin during a joint press conference with his South Korean counterpart. According to the head of the Pentagon, they discussed how the two countries are going to work with their allies and partners to respond to the DPRK troop deployment in Russia, which Lloyd called a dangerous and destabilizing escalation.
The evidence now suggests that North Korea has sent around 10,000 soldiers to train in eastern Russia. And some of these DPRK troops have already moved closer to Ukraine. And we're seeing them outfitted with Russian uniforms and provided with Russian equipment. And I am increasingly concerned that the Kremlin plans to use these North Korean soldiers to support Russia's combat operations in Russia's Kursk region near the border with Ukraine.
The Russian self-proclaimed President Putin will not prevail in Ukraine, even with more help from North Korea, added Austin. He also called on the DPRK to withdraw its troops from Russia. South Korean intelligence reveals that the majority of North Korean soldiers sent to Russia consist of 20-year-old conscripts, late teens among them. This data, including North Korean troop movement, was shared on Tuesday with the intelligence service, adding the DPRK soldiers should not be underestimated, as they likely underwent basic training in the special forces known as Storm Corps. Ukraine could join the European Union by 2029 if it completes the necessary reforms, stated the European Commissioner Olivier Varhelyi. On October 29th, the European Commission adopted its annual enlargement package, providing a detailed assessment of the progress made by Ukraine and other prospective candidate states on their respective paths towards EU accession. The assessments are accompanied by recommendations and guidance on reform priorities, which, if readily followed, would allow the possibility for Ukraine to join the Union within 5 years. Ukraine is now producing approximately 20 Bohdana self-propelled howitzers each month, thanks to the Danish model, which enables allies to fund Ukrainian military production. This was announced by President Zelenskyy during his evening address on Wednesday. In September, Denmark stated it had funded the production of 18 Bohdanas, which were delivered to the armed forces of Ukraine. This marked the first time an EU country used funds specifically for the purchase of military equipment from Ukrainian manufacturers. The 2S-22 Bohdana is a 155mm wheeled self-propelled howitzer with a maximum range of 42 kilometers. By the end of the year, more British AS-90 howitzers will be deployed to the front line, reported the Ukrainian Minister of Defense last month. United 24 Media took a look at this weaponry and its performance and heard the crew feedback. While the UK planned to retire the AS-90 over the next decade, they are more than welcome here in Ukraine.
So you just saw the British AS-90 self-propelled howitzer in action. It belongs to the Ukrainian 116th Mechanized Brigade, and now we are going to talk to the crews about its performance.
It has a fairly fast aim, due to the fact that the calculation on the tablet takes literally 2 minutes, and if you get the hang of it, you can calculate the target position in a minute. It is transmitted to the gun, and the gun is aimed with just a few clicks on the computer screen. It's not without its problems, because there are issues with the tracks, as they are not very suitable for our conditions because of all the mud.
Although Great Britain has already made plans to retire AS-90, here in Ukraine such vehicles are more than welcome. From what the crew says, it is still far superior to most of the Soviet artillery.
You can watch the full report on our YouTube channel. Norway will provide Ukraine with F-16 jets and NASAMS air defense systems as part of a new €500 million military aid package. This was reported by the head of the Department of International Cooperation of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. According to him, Norwegian Defense Minister Bjorn Arild Gram announced this during a visit to Odessa. Oslo will also allocate €109 million to fund, among other things, the procurement of weapons, spare parts for the F-16 aircraft and 130 inflatable boats. This was reported on the Norwegian government's official website. The contribution is made through the American Jumpstart mechanism. The news came 2 days after President Zelenskyy met with the Norwegian Prime Minister in Reykjavik, where the two signed an agreement bolstering military aid to Ukraine that will expand air defense systems with additional weaponry. Ukraine has received only 10% of the US military aid approved by Congress earlier this year, stated President Zelenskyy during his interview with Nordic journalists in Reykjavik.
You said what to do, for example, when Russia gains or something, some steps forward on the east. This is the same. You do your job, you count on reserves, you count on special brigades, you count on such equipment, and if you've got 10% from all the package, been even voted already. You know, that it's not funny, but it's the Congress voted.
Zelenskyy added that this is not a question of funding, but rather of bureaucracy or logistics, ideas or skepticism. He also stated that Ukraine has made many agreements with its partners.
If you gave the word, yes, have to do it. Not too much, not more, but not less. This is the rule of the war, because you have to count on very specific things in a very concrete time.
During the interview, Zelenskyy also noted that NATO countries were not ready to take concrete steps on Ukraine's membership because of the war, but that the alliance promised to provide 6 or 7 systems to protect Ukraine's sky.
When you made such decision, and we made a decision that before the school year in the Ukraine beginning 1st of September, it was second because Sunday was first, used to be very concrete. Yes, but if till now you didn't get this number, if till now you didn't get, and you can't count on this big support of air defense during the heating season, which already began in Ukraine.
The Ukrainian State Border Guards released footage of what the city of Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region looks like now. The servicemen stated that only ruins remain. Russian forces are constantly attacking Ukrainian positions in that direction. In particular, they use guided aerial bombs to strike the city. Before the Russian full-scale invasion, over 17,000 people lived in Vovchansk.
It was probably beautiful before. I looked at the map, at the drawings, at the photos. It was a beautiful city. Now there's nothing there, just bricks. There's just rubble, ruins, and nothing else. They destroyed everything. They just turned the city to ash.
The Russian Special Forces University in Russia's Chechen Republic was hit by drones. The head of the Chechen Republic reported on October 29th that one of the buildings of the military establishment came under fire in the early morning in Gudurmes, 30 kilometers away from the capital Grozny. This is the first report of a drone strike on the territory of the Republic since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In response, the Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov told the Russian state media that he ordered the pro-Russian Chechen units at the front lines to stop capturing the Ukrainian defenders and execute them on the spot. Meanwhile, sources of the Suspilne media in the Ukrainian intelligence indicated that the drone could have been launched from the territory of the neighboring Dagestan or Ingushetia regions. Nearly 650,000 Russian soldiers are already dead or wounded in the war, stated President Zelenskyy. In an interview with Times of India, he mentioned that many Russian soldiers were killed by their own army.
Russia itself has killed a lot of Russians. A lot of mobilized Russian soldiers were killed by the Russian army itself because they were afraid to go forward, to advance, to die under bullets or to be wounded, and they ran back and were killed by their own army. These are their laws. They don't care about the numbers.
In the interview, Zelenskyy pointed to the potential that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi could help mediate peace talks to bring an end to war in Ukraine. He also added that blocking the Russian economy, cheap energy resources and the work of the Russian defense industry will lead to Russia's decreased ability to fight. Russian recon UAVs are being fitted with new evading technology powered by AI. Footage released on October 29th by Ukrainian activist and volunteer Serhiy Sternenko clearly shows a Russian-made Zala UAV bobbing and weaving in order to maneuver away from a Ukrainian FPV drone. Fortunately, the seemingly AI power on board technology did not help the Russian drone, as the National Guard's FPV pilots shot it down shortly after the chase. Ukraine has test-launched its drone swarm technology. According to the Minister of Strategic Industries of Ukraine, Herman Smetanin, the final product was delivered through the close work of the Brave One Accelerator, Ministry of Defense General Staff, National Guard and the Ministry of Digital Transformation. Smetanin posted footage of the technology on Wednesday. A total of 7 companies showed off their achievement of the drone swarm, which allows a single operator to control the entire unmanned fleet, select targets and authorize engagement. The Ukrainian High Command will cooperate on further development of the project. Ukraine's e-governance Diia app has been included in Time's Best Inventions 2024 list in the apps and software category. This was announced by Ukraine's Minister of Digital Transformation Mikhailo Fedorov. Diia was awarded for its online marriage service, marking the first fully digital process for marriage registration globally. Each year, Time selects 200 inventions that they believe are changing the world. This is it for today. We are United 24 Media. Thank you for being with us and see you next week.